Hello, it's September 4th of the 365 workout, and we're doing the J.B. Phillips paraphrase. And we're going to pick up at Matthew chapter 8. Large crowds followed him when he came down from the hillside. There was a leper who came and knelt in front of him. "Sir," he said, "if you want to, you can make me clean." Jesus stretched out his hand and placed it on the leper, saying, "Of course I want you to. Of course I want to. Be clean." And at once he was clear of the leprosy. "Mind you say nothing to anybody," Jesus told him. "Go straight off and show yourself to the priest and make the offering for your recovery that Moses prescribed as evidence to the authorities." Then, as he was coming into Capernaum, a centurion approached him. "Sir," he implored him, "my servant is in bed at home, paralyzed and in dreadful pain." "I will come and heal him," said Jesus to him. "Sir," replied the centurion, "I am not important enough for you to come under my roof. You have only to give the order, and my servant will recover. I am a man under authority myself, and I have soldiers under me. I can say to one man, 'Go,' and I know he'll go, or I can say, 'Come here,' and to another, and I know he'll come. Or I can say to my slave, 'Do this,' and he'll do it." When Jesus heard this, he was astonished. "Believe me," he said to those who were following him, "I have never found faith like this even in Israel. I tell you that many people will come from east and west and be fellow guests with Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob in the kingdom of heaven. But those who should have belonged to the kingdom will be banished to the darkness outside, where there will be tears and bitter regret." Then he said to the centurion, "Go home now, and everything will happen as you have believed it will." And his servant was healed at that actual moment. Then, on coming to Peter's house, Jesus saw that Peter's mother-in-law had been put to bed with a high fever. He touched her hand, and the fever left her. And then she got up and began to see to his needs. When evening came, they brought to him many who were possessed by evil spirits, which he expelled with a word. Indeed, he healed all who were ill. Thus was fulfilled Isaiah's prophecy. "Himself took our infirmities and bare our diseases." When Jesus had seen the great crowds around him, he gave orders to cross over to the other side of the lake. But before they started, one of the scribes came up to Jesus and said to him, "Master, I will follow you wherever you go." "Foxes have earths, birds in the sky have nests, but the Son of Man has no earth that he can call his own," replied Jesus. Another of his disciples said, "Lord, let me first go and bury my father." But Jesus said, "Follow me, and leave the dead to bury their own dead." Then he went aboard the boat, and his disciples followed him. Before long, a terrific storm sprang up, and the boat was awash with the waves. Jesus was sleeping soundly, and the disciples went forward and woke him up. "Lord, save us!" they cried. "We are drowning." Why are you so frightened, you of little faiths?" he replied. And he got to his feet and rebuked the wind and the waters, and there was a great calm. The men were filled with astonishment and kept saying, "Whatever sort of man this is, why even the winds and the waters do what he tells them." When he arrived on the other side, which is the Gadarenes country, he was met by two devil-possessed men who came out from among the tombs. They were so violent that nobody dared to use that road. What have you got to do with us, you Son of God?" they screamed at him. "Have you come here to torture us before our time?" It happened that in the distance there was a large herd of pigs feeding. So the devils implored him, "If you throw us out, send us into the herd of pigs." "Then go," said Jesus to them. And the devils came out and went into the pigs. Then quite suddenly the whole herd stampeded down the steep cliff into the lake and were drowned. The swineherds took to their heels and ran to the town. There they poured out the whole story of what had happened to the two men who had been devil-possessed. Whereupon the whole town came out to meet Jesus, and as soon as they saw him, implored him to leave their country. Chapter 9. So Jesus re-embarked on the boat, crossed the lake, and came to his own town. Immediately some people arrived, bringing him a paralytic lying flat on his bed. When Jesus saw the faith of those who brought him, he said to the paralytic, "Cheer up, my son, your sins are forgiven." At once some of the scribes said to themselves, "This man is blaspheming." But Jesus realized what they were thinking and said to them, "Why must you have such evil thoughts in your minds? Do you think it easier to say, 'Your sins are forgiven,' or 'Get up and walk'? But to make it quite plain that the Son of Man has full authority on earth to forgive sins," and here he spoke to the paralytic, "Get up, pick up your bed, and go home." And the man sprang to his feet and went home. When the crowd saw what had happened, they were filled with awe and praised God for giving such power to men. Jesus left there, and as he passed on, he saw a man called Matthew sitting at his desk in the tax collector's office. "Follow me," he said to him, and the man got to his feet and followed him. Later, as Jesus was in the house, sitting at the dinner table, many tax collectors and other disreputable people came and joined him and his disciples. The Pharisees noticed this and said to the disciples, "Why does your master have his meals with tax collectors and sinners?" But Jesus heard this and replied, "It is not the fit and flourishing who need the doctor, but those who are ill. You should go and learn what this text means. I desire mercy and not sacrifice. In any case, I did not come to invite the righteous, but the sinners." When John's disciples approached him with the question, "Why is it that we and the Pharisees observe fasts, but your disciples do not?" "Can you expect wedding guests to mourn while they have a bridegroom with them?" replied Jesus. "The day will come when the bridegroom will be taken away from them. They will certainly fast then. Nobody sews a patch of unstrung cloth onto an old coat. The patch will pull away from the coat, and the hole will be worse than ever. Nor do people put new wine into old wineskins. Otherwise the skins burst, and the wine is split, and the skins are ruined. But they put new wine into new skins, and both are preserved." While he was saying these things to them, an official came up to him, and bowing low before him, said, "My daughter has just this moment died. Please come and lay your hand on her, and she will come back to life." At this, Jesus got to his feet and followed him, accompanied by his disciples. And on the way, a woman who had a hemorrhage for 12 years approached him from behind and touched the edge of his cloak. "If I can only touch his cloak," she kept saying to herself, "I shall be all right." But Jesus turned round and saw her. "Cheer up, my daughter," he said, "your faith has made you well." And the woman was completely cured from that moment. Then, when Jesus came into the official's house and noticed the flute players and the noisy crowd, he said, "You must all go outside. The little girl's not dead. She is fast asleep." This was met with scornful laughter. But when the crowd had been turned out, he came right into the room, took hold of her hand, and the girl got up. And this became the talk of the whole district. As Jesus passed on his way, 2 blind men followed him with the cry, "Have pity on us, Son of David." And when he had gone inside the house, these 2 came up to him. "Do you believe I can do it?" he said to them. "Yes, Lord," they replied. Then he touched their eyes, saying, "You have believed, and so it shall be." Then their sight returned, but Jesus sternly warned them, "Don't let anyone know about this." Yet they went outside and spread the story throughout the whole district. Later, when Jesus and his party were coming out, they brought to him a dumb man who was possessed by a devil. As soon as the devil had been ejected, the dumb man began to talk. The crowds were simply amazed and said, "Nothing like this has ever been done in Israel." But the Pharisees' comment was, "He throws out the devils because he is in league with the devil himself." Jesus now traveled through all the towns and villages, teaching in their synagogues, proclaiming the gospel of the kingdom, and healing all kinds of illness and disability. As he looked at the vast crowds, he was deeply moved with pity for them, for they were as bewildered and miserable as a flock of sheep with no shepherd. "The harvest is great," he remarked to his disciples, "but the reapers are few. So you must pray to the Lord of the harvest to send men out to bring it in." Chapter 10. Jesus called his 12 disciples to him and gave them authority to expel evil spirits and heal all kinds of disease and infirmity. The names of the 12 apostles are: first, Simon called Peter, with his brother Andrew, James and his brother John, sons of Zebedee, Philip and Bartholomew, Thomas and Matthew the tax collector, James the son of Alphaeus and Thaddeus, Simon the patriot, and Judas Iscariot, who later turned traitor. These were the 12 whom Jesus sent out, with instructions: don't turn off into any of the heathen roads, don't go into any Samaritan town, go rather to the lost sheep of the house of Israel. As you go, proclaim that the kingdom of heaven has arrived. Heal the sick, raise the dead, cure the lepers, drive out the devils, give as you have received, without any charge whatever. Don't take any gold or silver or even copper to put in your purse, nor a knapsack for the journey, nor even a second coat, nor sandals nor staff. The workman deserves his keep. Wherever you go, whether it is into a town or a village, find out someone who is respected and stay with him until you leave. As you enter his house, give it your blessing. If the house deserves it, the peace of your blessing will come to it. But if it doesn't, your peace will return to you. And if no one will welcome you or even listen to what you have to say, leave that house or town, and once outside it, shake off the dust of that place from your feet. Believe me, it will be easier for Sodom and Gomorrah in the day of judgment than for that town. Here I am, sending you out like sheep with wolves all around you. So be as wise as serpents and harmless as doves. But be on your guard against men, for they will take you to the courts and flog you in the synagogues. You will be brought into the presence of governors and kings because of me, to give your witness to them and to the heathen. But when they do arrest you, never worry about how you are to speak or what you are to say. You will be told at the time what you are to say. But it will not be really you who are speaking, but the Spirit of your Father speaking through you. Brother will betray brother to death, and father his children. Children will turn against their parents and have them executed. You yourselves will be universally hated because of my name. But the man who endures to the very end will be safe and sound. But when they persecute you in one town, make your escape to the next. Believe me, you will not have covered the towns of Israel before the Son of Man arrives. The disciple is not superior to his teacher, any more than the servant is superior to his master. For what is good enough for the teacher is good enough for the disciple, and the servant will not fare better than his master. If men call the master of the household the prince of evil, what sort of names will they give to his servants? But never let them frighten you, for there is nothing covered up which is not going to be exposed, nor anything private which will not be made public. The things I tell you in the dark you must say in the daylight, and the things you hear in your private ear you must proclaim from the housetops. Never be afraid of those who can kill the body, but are powerless to kill the soul. Far better to stand in awe of the one who has the power to destroy body and soul in the fires of destruction. 2 sparrows are sold for a farthing, aren't they? Yet not a single sparrow falls to the ground without your Father's knowledge. The very hairs of your head are all numbered. Never to be afraid, then. You are far more valuable than sparrows. Every man who publicly acknowledges me, I shall acknowledge in the presence of my Father in heaven. But the man who disowns me before men, I shall disown before my Father in heaven. Never think I have come to bring peace upon the earth. No, I have not come to bring peace, but a sword. For I have come to set a man against his own father, a daughter against her own mother, and a daughter-in-law against her own mother-in-law. A man's enemies will be those who live in his own house. Anyone who puts his love for father or mother above his love for me does not deserve to be mine. And he who loves son or daughter more than me is not worthy of me. And neither is the man who refuses to take up his cross and follow my way. The man who has found his life will lose it, but the man who has lost it for my sake will find it. Whoever welcomes you welcomes me, and whoever welcomes me is welcoming him who sent me. Whoever welcomes a prophet because he is a prophet will get a prophet's reward, and whoever welcomes a good man because he is a good man will get a good man's reward. Believe me, anyone who gives even a cup of cold water to one of these little ones just because he is my disciple will by no means lose his reward. Okay, we'll end there, and we'll see you tomorrow, September 5th. Until then.